Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hala, as became introduced, and I'm an architect from Gaza. And nice to meet you all. I will start. No, wait, I will open the right page. Yeah. So, to be honest, it has been a while since I presented in a public. And the last night, I spent the time thinking of how to start my presentation. And I came only with one solution, which is the traditional way of starting our presentations in Palestine. In Gaza, it's like Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, or in the name of Allah. Welcome to our presentation about planning and reality, Gaza from an urban planning perspective. In this presentation, I will start with a very quick introduction about Palestine and Gaza, a very quick overview, and then starting with the main topic about planning before the war, the 7th of October 2023, and then after the planning after the war, after the 7th of October 2023, and lastly, I will finish with open questions that you have to think about in the future. So, as you know, maybe you have to think about what you really know about Palestine. And it's widely known, it has many names, and if you see one of these names, you will know that these people are talking about Palestine. It's the Holy Land, or in Arabic, Al-Ard al-Mubaraka, Palestine, historical Palestine, State of Palestine, Palestinian territories, occupied Palestinian territories, West Bank and Gaza Strip, and at the end in Arabic, Palestine. But as locals, how do we define Palestine? We define it West Bank, which is the northern government, and the southern government, which is Gaza, which I came from. And it's the city near the coastline. It's this small city in the coastline. Yeah. The geographic location for Palestine is a transitional zone between the Earth desert climate and the temperate and semi-humid Mediterranean climate. And if you want to think about Gaza only, it has an area of 365 square kilometers, width of 5.7 meters only in the narrowest area, and 12.5 kilometers in the widest area, in the widest distance, sorry. The length is 40 kilometers from the north to the south only. The population in the 2023, before the war, it was 2,250,000. In 2025, the last record was 2,130,000, and I think you can imagine what happened to the 100,000 people. If you want to compare it to Pristina, Pristina has an area of 523 kilometers square, population of 227,000, density of 435.6 kilometers square. And that means that Palestine or Gaza is very dense compared to the area that it has. It has mainly 5 governments: the North Gaza, Deir el-Balah, Khan Yunis, and Rafah. And you may see the other map, which has more details about the population. North Gaza, 440,000, 750 Gaza City, Deir el-Balah, 320, Khan Yunis, 430,000, and Rafah, 275,000. So, starting with the main topics. How was the planning before the war? To understand how the planning was, maybe you have to go back a little bit to history. The Gaza Regional Plan of 1989 was part of a political and planning sequence. First, the Oslo Accords in 1993 introduced the idea of Palestinian self-rule. Then the Cairo Agreement in 1995, showing the area under Palestinian Authority and those kept by Israel. The Palestinian Authority began managing civil affairs, and in 1998, the Gaza Regional Plan was drafted to guide the urban growth, transport, industry, and trade. In 1998, Gaza Plan suggested to a simple structure, 2 main urban centers, one in Gaza City and the other one in Khan Yunis City, and supported by smaller sub-centers in spaces like Deir el-Balah and Rafah. It proposed a clear transportation network with 3 main roads: Salah ad-Din, an eastern axis, and the coastal road, which was named after that Al-Rashid coastal road. For the economy, it moved the industrial zones eastward to reduce pollution and plan for clusters for future growth. And for the free trade zones near the airport, seaport, and along major roads, both commerce and re-export activities. This plan, in 1998 regional plan, was not formally ratified, and its general principles, scenarios, and basic assumptions remain relevant to the 2020 regional plan, which is the plan that was implemented in Gaza before the war, until before the war, yeah. The plan focused on sustainable land use by directing growth to lower value areas while protecting natural resources, and organized urban development around two main hubs. It's the same like the 1998 regional plan. Gaza government in the north Gaza government in the north, and in the south also Khan Younis government. A regional transportation network was designed to connect population centers with production sites, the seaport and airport and border crossings, and the plan emphasized building infrastructure to support agriculture, industry, tourism, and trade. Unfortunately, despite the regional plan mentioning many important points for developing the urban environment, large number of these points were ignored, and several problems contradicted what was stated in regional plans. While at the same time, there were some attempts to recognize the Gaza Strip to conform to regional plan. Yeah. Mentioning some points that happened on the ground with contradiction to the regional plan in Gaza, the 2005 to 2020 plan, is what happened to Valley Gaza, or what we know in the Arabic form, it's Wadi Gaza. The regional plan said that providing the necessary land for various urban uses in a manner that does not conflict with the protection of important natural resources to ensure sustainable development, and directing urban development towards areas of lower value. But if you want to compare what happened to the area, you have to see the photos here were taken from the Google Earth in 2014 in April, and in April 2024, so 10 years of difference, and you can see that all the urban development is going toward the Wadi Gaza, or the valley. Yeah. And another point, the regional plan says that urban development centered on two regional hubs, Gaza government in the north and Khan Younis government in the south, with a relatively high population density. However, from the maps from the maps on the left side, you can see that all the educational stations and all the higher education stations and the hospitals and clinics are centered in the northern part only, not so much in the southern part. And for trying and amidst the population growth, it was expected that the population will reach 2,475,000 by 2020, and actually it reached 2,100,000 in 2020. And this, because of these issues that has appeared in the regional plan, that the Gaza city was the center and the high number of population, they tried to find some solutions to solve these problems. And for doing that, they started what we call residential projects. Some of them are in the northern part, and some of them are in the southern part. The first picture on the left, it's Hamad city, and it's located on the southern part, so in Khan Younis, for trying to collect the people to the south instead of keeping them in the north part. So one of the problems facing the regional plan for Gaza Strip was urban sprawl and informal settlements. And given this, the importance of this issue, it was emphasized in the university urban planning courses. And usually we used to solve this problem using one type of solution, which is called planning a neighborhood. So this is an example of one of the informal settlements in Gaza. It's an area called Dir el-Balah, which has mostly residential building and an archaeological site. And this is how students try to work and solve the problem. Usually they start with doing an analysis for the area, analysis of the building heights, structure, the use of the land, the building structure and condition, the street classification and condition. It's a way to analyze the area and finding the problems that are facing this area. And the students gave this as a solution. I forgot to, yeah. The solution the student gave, their main concept was not to remove any building that has a permanent structure and residing the area according to this target. In that case, students worked on mixing the residential types of type A, type B, and C, which each type has a different building and construction rules, adding a mosque and school, shopping mall, and preserving the archaeological site. And this is what we call in Gaza designing the neighborhoods. It's like mixing all type of residential, building a mosque, a shopping mall, and a school, yeah, like this. But the wars. Unfortunately, we have so many wars, and these are some of them, starting from 2000 Intifada and going then to the war in 2008, 2009, and then Gaza war in 2014, and then we have the one in 2021, and then we have in between some wars that are only for 1 week, so they are sometimes not mentioned, and then we have the last genocide in Gaza war 2023, which is until now. But students, yeah, not students, this is how it looks like now. No streets, no buildings. 80% of the total housing units were damaged or destroyed. Near total destruction of educational institutions. The destruction affected 38 hospitals and health centers, and these all are around 70 billion USD dollars, which is a lot. Yeah, but despite this, people try to solve our problems, to say, and there are some international reconstruction plans that are trying to solve the regional plan or trying to do a new regional plan. The USA plan suggested, as you know, maybe or has heard in the news, we have the USA plan suggested a large-scale vision to rebuild Gaza by dividing it into phases with new urban centers, industrial zones, and tourism areas. And it includes housing, transport networks, a port, airport, and logistics hubs aiming to reshape the region's economy and infrastructure into a modern connected system. While the Egyptian one suggested a residential layout with housing blocks, service area, green spaces organized along a main street and connected by similar roads. It aims at balanced living areas with infrastructure and public services, creating a more structured and accessible urban environment. However, we try, I forgot to remove my notes, so skip them. Yeah. But however the world tries to solve our own problems, our municipalities try to solve also our problems. However, the municipality has not published an official regional plan or a new one. So they have just put some guidelines, which are, as you can see, recognizing buildings while keeping ownership and family-based patterns, allow building blocks to merge for better urban form, expand roads and services, focus on public transport networks instead of just widening streets, reducing congestions, population, and costs. In the municipality plans, maybe you can see that they try to work with people instead of only focusing on the economy of the area. Yeah. What do students do? What are the efforts, or what we can say, what are the efforts of the new generation in urban planning and regional design? Students usually work with similar, less complex plans, so they don't work on regional plans, they just work on small neighborhoods. And as you can see, these are structural maps of some areas in Gaza, stripped before the war. and I will show you how they transformed. This is the same. This is for the first area, which is called Tal al-Hawa, and this is the one on the left. It's right. Yeah, it's the right. And then the other one, Al-Zahra, it's on the left. The first project in Tal al-Hawa of Gaza City, it uses the same methods employed before the war. Analytic plans were created for the area. And here the students suppose that the area is completely destroyed and made completely a new design for the area. And for that, this is what happened. This is the proposed plan for the area. And maybe here I will leave you to decide whether what the students did is appropriate. Yeah. For what happened during the 2 years of war. Should they keep thinking like we did before the war, or should they change what we did before the war? So you have to answer this, not me. Another project is Al-Zahra, and they made the same analysis, but this time they took some analysis from the war, and they made also the analysis of the area after the war. And they came out, instead of coming out with a proposal, they analyzed the area based on 4 pillars of sustainable urban development: vegetation analysis, economic analysis, mobility analysis, and social structure. And following the analysis, the students developed recommendations for each pillar to improve and develop the area, instead of developing it completely and putting just some residential areas. They just made some sustainable analysis for the area. And at the end, reconstruction or transformation. Is it important to reconstruct exactly what has been lost, or is it more important to use destruction as an opportunity to build back better and define new opportunities, values, and spatial paradigms? Yeah. Utility or identity. Should the response to conflict and displacement be focused mainly on problem solving and utility, or should it also focus on maintaining personal national identity and individual and cultural and emotional well-being? These are open questions. I don't have an answer for them, so you have maybe the answer. And thank you. Banan?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Thank you very much for your presentation, Hala.
Yeah, you can share.
My voice is clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's sharing, I think. Yeah. We can see the Zoom, not the PowerPoint. Yeah.
So let's just go full screen.
This.
Yeah. Full screen? Yeah.
This good?
Yeah, it's clear.
Hala?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just maybe
Okay.
close the chat and participate.
Oh, it's from my screen?
Firstly, good evening, everyone. I'm truly honored to be here today as a part of the Kosovo Architecture Fellowship. And I would like to sincerely thank all the organizers and everyone who made this inspiring gathering possible. It's a privilege to share and learn, connect with such an inspiring community of architects and participants. Firstly, my name is Banan Shbair. I am an architect from Gaza. I work in a project related on heritage documentations and project related on rehabilitations building. Today, I would like to share a perspective on reconstructions that goes beyond rebuilding building. It's about rebuilding identity, restoring dignity, and strengthening the relationship between people and place. When we hear the word reconstruction, we often imagine cranes, concrete, and construction sites. But before any architects draw the first line, people have already begun rebuilding their lives in their own ways. That simple observation led me to one central question. What if reconstruction started with listening instead of building? This question immediately reminded me of Hassan Fathi architects' belief that architecture should respond to people's lives and aspirations, not simply produce building. To answer that question, we first need to understand what displacement really means. When we think about displacement, we usually think about losing a house. But in Gaza, displacement is much more than losing shelter. It means losing familiar streets, neighbors, daily routines, childhood memories, actually, and the feeling of belonging to the place. Many families have been displaced several times, and every move requires adapting to a completely new environment. As architects, we often focus on providing physical shelter, but people also need emotional stability, social connection, and the possibility of imagining a future. And this presentation is about how architecture can help reconstruct not only building, but also identity. After destructions, our attention naturally goes to what has disappeared. But I began asking a different questions. Where does architecture actually begin? Does it begin when a building is designed, or does it begin much earlier? In Gaza, architecture often begins with people. Community immediately organize themselves. Families repair damaged spaces. Neighbors share materials. And children redefine open space. People create solutions long before official reconstruction starts. Another important observation is that debris is not simply waste. It becomes the first available building resource. This completely changed our understanding of reconstructions. Instead of seeing destruction as an ending, we can begin to see it as the beginning of another cycle. This leads to the idea of circular recovery. The recovery process usually starts by sorting damaged materials. Then comes reuse, finally rebuilding. Reusing local materials has several advantages. It reduces waste, it lowers transportation costs, it preserves local identity, and it allows community to participate directly in rebuilding. However, materials alone cannot rebuild communities. Concrete cannot restore belonging, and steel cannot rebuild trust. Only people can do that. But I also realized something else. Materials are not only resources for rebuilding, they are also carriers of memory. And this became very personal to me through my own experience. Before the war, I had the opportunity to work on documenting cultural heritage sites in Gaza using photogrammetry. This experience completely changed the way I think about reconstructions. I realized that heritage is not only about protecting, it's not about protecting historical building, but it's also about preserving materials, craftsmanship, and the memories embedded in them. So when we reuse a stone or a piece of debris, we are not only recycling a materials, but we are preserving identity and allowing the past to remain part of the future. This experience made me realize that resilience is not only about recovering physically, it's also about protecting cultural identity. So the next question becomes, how can we actually design for resilience? This brings us to another important question. Can resilience actually be designed? I believe it can. However, resilience is not a design feature that we simply add to a building. It's a process that consciously evolves through that interaction between people, place, and architecture. As shown in the diagram, the process begins by listening to communities and understanding their needs. These insights are translated into design solutions, which are then tested, improved, and adapted over time. In other words, resilience is a continuous feedback loop, not a one-time interventions. If resilience is a process, what makes a design resilient? For me, it's built on 6 key of principles: flexibility, rehabilitations, participations, reuse, growth, and finally community. Because resilience is ultimately about people, not only building. Together, these principles shift architecture from creating finished building to creating systems that can adapt, recover, and grow. This is why I see architecture not as a finished product, but as a living process that evolves with people's lives. Traditionally, architecture is often seen as a finished object. A building is completed and the project ends, but reality is different. Families grow, needs change, resources become available gradually, communities evolve. So, why should architecture remain fixed? I believe architecture should behave more like a living process than a finished product. Incremental housing reflects this idea. People begin with what they need today. Tomorrow they expand, later they adapt again. They are the architect's role is not to predict every future change, but it make a future change possible. Recovery also happen over time. It cannot happen all at once. I describe recovery through 3 connected phases. The first phase is safety. Immediately after a crisis, people need protections. The second phase is recovery, because families begin rebuilding routines. Children return to school, to educations, and communities reconnect. Finally, we come to belonging. People no longer want temporary survival. They want stability, they want identity, and they want home. Architecture should respond differently during each phase instead of offering the same solution of every situation. One strategy that supports this gradual recovery is vertical expansions. Land in Gaza is extremely limited. Moving families away from their communities often weakens important social relationships. This is the social life in Gaza. Instead of expanding horizontally, a building can grow vertically over time. This allows families to remain close to relatives, neighbors, schools, and workplace. So vertical expansions becomes much more than architectural solutions. It becomes a social strategy. It protects a relationship while allowing cities to grow gradually. All of these ideas lead to one conclusion. Resilience is not achieved by constructing one successful building. It's created through systems that continue evolving. With people, absolutely. The transition from emergency shelter to permanent housing shouldn't happen through demolition and replacement. Instead, temporary structure should have the ability to transform gradually into permanent neighborhoods. This reduces waste, it saves resources, most importantly, it preserves community continuity. To demonstrate this idea, I developed a conceptual proposal based on a real site in Gaza City. Today, this area functions as a temporary tent settlement. Public open spaces have become emergency camps. Schools are used as shelter because they remain virtually standing. This reflects the current reality experienced by many communities. Rather than treating this situation as temporary and disconnected from future planning, I asked, how can today's emergency shelter become tomorrow's neighborhood? The proposal follows the principles of organized organic growth. The first stage provides modular shelter units that can be constructed quickly. Infrastructure is planned from the beginning. Movement paths remains clear. Public space are preserved. Instead of replacing everything, the settlement evolves naturally. The transition between camps and cities becomes continuous rather than sudden. This approach respects both immediate humanitarian needs and long-term urban development. I would like to finish where I began. Reconstruction is not simply about replacing damaged buildings. It's about rebuilding relationships. It's about restoring identity. It's about giving people the opportunity to shape their own future. As architects, our responsibility is not only to design buildings, it's to create conditions where communities can recover with dignity. Because in the end, architecture begins with people, building come later. Thank you very much.